A mayor gets arrested for checking building safety codes while actual terrorists who beat cops with American flags are getting million-dollar payouts. If this doesn't make your blood boil, you're not paying attention. Representative Jasmine Crockett just dropped a truth bomb that every real patriot needs to hear. Hit that subscribe button and notification bell right now because we're exposing the most dangerous hypocrisy threatening our...
But since I decided to bring up January 6th, let me run a tape to remind y'all of the difference of congressional oversight versus criminals.
We're here conducting an oversight visit, which we had the power to do as congressional members. Statutory authority, and so that is what we're here for, and we're waiting to speak to a supervisor to let us in here because...
Stand up for him, Mayor. We will be your eyes and your ears. And we will report to you, Mayor.
It's interesting that one set of behavior somehow is going to get a family rich overnight. And the other folk that were there in that video, the members of Congress, well, they're saying arrest them. Let me remind you that those January 6ers have been pardoned. Let me remind you that yet another January 6er was just arrested a few days ago for committing what? Another crime. So if we're going to talk about us keeping our streets safe, let's be real about who's causing crimes, who actually went through what we call due process, because no one denied the January 6th insurrectionists of their due process. They went to court. They either pled guilty or were found guilty, and they were sent to prison. And half of them, actually all of them, if their sentences said so, should still be in prison. Because we as Americans would be safer. We won't get into the fact that another one was already in trouble because they had already killed somebody. The fact is, as the mayor of any city, I want to be clear that there is a duty. And that duty is to make sure that any and every building that is opened in that city is up to code. So just because something may have been up to code in 2008 doesn't mean that in 2025 that it was up to code. And there are those that should respect the authority of the city in which they are operating in. And somehow, during the later hours of last night, we saw that while the mayor had been unlawfully charged, those charges ended up being dropped. The mayor of the largest city in the state of New Jersey was charged with criminal trespass. Now, we have video footage, and I'm not gonna play it, but we have video footage of literally them opening the gate and then asking him to leave, and then he left. Therefore, there is no criminal trespass. But the reason that I bring it up is because this entire situation could have been avoided if people just would know their jobs and actually do their jobs. Because the entire chaos that ensued, it ensued because of the unlawful detainment and arrest of the mayor in the first place. But let me get to my actual remarks. The Republicans have called today's hearing for one purpose: to help an administration that's already rooted in lawlessness and corruption execute their dangerous assault on American democracy. So in today's hearing, you'll hear them admonish their own congressional colleagues and excuse the behavior of the out-of-control, corrupt Trump administration. They're going to try to convince you that they're here to protect law and order and the rule of law. But they won't mention how the Trump administration is openly defying many of the 162 court rulings that have paused his illegal executive orders. They won't talk about how the president has called for the impeachment of judges who rule against him, or how they're allowing ICE agents to raid churches and elementary schools. They won't talk about how they're allowing Trump to purge the Department of Justice of employees who helped investigate the January 6th insurrectionists. They won't talk about how this administration is preparing to give $5 million to the family of Ashley Babbitt, who participated in said insurrection. Because they don't actually care about law and order and the rule of law. They're here today for one reason: to forfeit their constitutional oversight responsibilities.
Democracy. Patriots. What Jasmine Crockett just exposed should enrage every American who believes in real law and order. Let me break this down, because this is insane. The mayor of the largest city in New Jersey, an elected official, was literally arrested for doing his job. He went to check if a building met safety codes. You know, making sure buildings don't collapse and kill people? That's what mayors do. And they slapped criminal trespass charges on him. But here's where it gets sick. We have video proving he left when asked. no trespass. The charges were dropped because they were bogus from the start. This was pure political intimidation. Now contrast that with the January 6th terrorists. These people beat cops with flags. They smeared feces on the Capitol walls. They tried to overthrow our government. And what happens? They get pardons. They get treated like heroes. And Crockett dropped another bomb. One of these pardoned terrorists just got arrested again for committing another crime. These aren't patriots. They're repeat offenders. Career criminals. But Trump and his cronies call them political prisoners, while actual public servants get handcuffs. This is what fascism looks like, people. When you arrest officials for safety inspections but pardon cop killers, you're not supporting law and order. You're building a police state where only Trump's enemies face consequences. And let's talk about what else Crockett exposed. ICE agents raiding churches and elementary schools. Churches. You know, those places the Constitution says government can't touch? Those places where Jesus said to shelter the vulnerable? But these fake Christians don't care about the Constitution or the Bible when it gets in the way of terrorizing immigrant families. They're traumatizing children to score political points. That's not law enforcement. That's terrorism. Here's what really gets me. These are the same people who screamed, "Back the blue," until the blue got in their way on January 6th. Then they beat the blue. They killed the blue. Officer Brian Sicknick died because of these animals. But now they want to give $5 million to Ashley Babbitt's family. She was shot while trying to breach the speaker's lobby. She was warned. She was part of a violent mob. But somehow she's the victim? While the mayor checking building codes is the criminal. Crockett nailed it. This is selective enforcement. It's only illegal when we do it. When they storm government buildings, attack cops, and defy 162 court orders, that's patriotism. When we do congressional oversight, which is literally our constitutional duty, that's criminal. And speaking of those 162 court orders, Trump is openly defying them. He's calling for judges to be impeached for ruling against him. This isn't just disrespecting the law, it's declaring war on the judicial branch. You know what they're doing at DOJ? Purging everyone who investigated January 6th. They're firing career professionals and replacing them with MAGA loyalists. That's what happens in dictatorships. That's what Putin does. That's what Hitler did. They want to memory hold January 6th. They want us to forget that Trump supporters built a gallows. They chanted, "Hang Mike Pence." They had zip ties to take hostages. But sure, the real criminal is the mayor making sure buildings don't fall down. This is gaslighting on a national scale. They're trying to make us question reality itself. But we saw it. We saw the Confederate flags in the Capitol. We saw them hunting for Nancy Pelosi. We saw Officer Eugene Goodman leading terrorists away from the Senate chamber, probably saving lives. Crockett is absolutely right. Republicans have forfeited their oversight authority. They're not interested in accountability. They're running protection for criminals while persecuting heroes. And here's the thing. This affects all of us. Today it's a mayor. Tomorrow it could be you for speaking out at a school board meeting. Or protesting. Or just voting while black. Because that's where this leads. Total criminalization of dissent. We cannot normalize this. Every time we shrug and say that's just politics, democracy dies a little more. The Founding Fathers are spinning in their graves watching these traitors wrap themselves in the flag while destroying everything it stands for. Jasmine Crockett is a real patriot. She's calling out the hypocrisy. She's defending the Constitution. She's standing up for actual law and order, the kind where everyone faces justice, not just Trump's enemies. So here's what we do. We share this video everywhere. We vote in every election. We support leaders like Crockett who have the courage to speak truth. And we never forget what these fascists tried to do to our country. Because if we don't fight back now, if we don't defend democracy now, there won't be a democracy to defend. Stay angry. Stay engaged. And remember, real patriots defend the Constitution, not wannabe dictators.